All right, so today we're going to do some upgrading on the FCX24M, but before that I wanted to come out to the trail and get a little bit of before footage. That way we can see how much of a difference we actually make with these tweaks when we're done. Here's one of the areas where I'm not expecting it to do so good. So for starters, you'll see that it wants to take the front end up, and also we just don't have nearly enough traction. I don't even think we're going to be anywhere near getting up this. And I don't even know if we're getting up after mods, because that's hard for my 18th scale and better rigs. All right, here's probably the last area that I'm going to hope we can do better. Not the whole rock area. I think that would be asking a lot. But just this section. I want to be able to get up here, and I want to be able to either come around here or come up here to get there. So I think from here we're going to be all right. We'll have to see, but yeah. Coming around in the turn would be cool though. Even coming like kind of wide on this to get up there would be fine with me. But right now I can't really do it, so. Okay, so I think we've got a pretty good baseline and we've got a couple good spots to compare for the video. So our mission basically is to improve climbing, stability overall, and side hilling. And we also, if you notice, like the suspension, how it is right now, so we're basically bottomed out here, but it still has a little bit to go. I don't know what it is. There's a little bit of binding in the suspension or with the shocks that I would like to solve. So the suspension could definitely be better, and so could the stability. So we're gonna try and focus on that first. So 340 grams bone stock. It is going to be heavier when we're done, but we're not gonna go too heavy because I wanna keep that super good battery life as much as I can. For the first upgrade on this guy, and honestly what I would consider to be a good first upgrade for any small crawler, we are gonna go ahead and do these stamped steel wheels here. Any wheels and tires I would consider to be a good upgrade, but I had these stamped steel wheels laying around, and I also had these RC four-wheel drive Falcon Wild Peak tires, and I haven't had anywhere to put these, but now I do. And we're gonna use this chunky brass ring from OGRC. I've talked about these in another video before, but these things are awesome. If you can find a wheel that fits them, they're a little bit on the wide side, so some wheels don't like them, like DJ Crawler. But if you can find some wheels that work with these are an awesome upgrade. They add a ton of weight to each and every wheel. For the sake of a comparison, we'll weigh this brass ring from Injora. This is like the standard one that they have. Okay, 13 grams. Let's set it in the middle, see if it changes. Okay, 13 grams. And then here's the OGRC one. 23 grams. That's 10 grams more just for this guy. I don't know if there are heavier rings available, but I've really always kind of liked these. They're pretty cheap. I'll link them in the description for you guys in case you're trying to get some, but great first upgrade when you're building a set of wheels for a mini crawler for sure. Okay, since we have a scale today, the stock wheel weighs 11 grams and our upgraded wheel is gonna weigh 42 grams. Okay, now before we go ahead and put the wheels back on, we're gonna take a look at the suspension here a little bit. These shocks here, I mean, honestly, they're awesome for what they are. They're oil filled, they haven't even leaked or anything like that. They've been doing great, but look at that. You see how I just like can't really compress? Like that, this is about where I can get without like great force. So I thought about rebuilding them, but I also kind of wanted to try and see how these new Injora 39mm shocks were. So I got these. These guys are teeny little guys here. Way smaller than like your average TRX4M or any shock that I've actually really worked with before. They're super small. These do appear to be a little bit longer than the stock ones, but the main reason I went for these instead of trying to tune the stock shocks is because these can actually be tuned way more than the stock shocks. We have a nice threaded body, so we can do the preload, and we have a couple of extra springs. So we have a really light spring, we have a heavy spring, and then the one that comes on the shock is actually the medium spring. So I've got some 20 weight oil in these guys, and I am just thinking that these would be a good idea to try out on the FCX24M. As you can see here, there is quite a difference in size. I think that we can probably get away with maybe trying the soft spring, seeing if we can get it to sag to the ride height that we want, kind of like a droop style setup. So I'm getting the injora shocks put on here just in the factory location, but I am also noticing that there may be some additional mounting locations available to us. I'm noticing that where the link mounts here is open, we could mount the shock through the link. A lot of trucks do that already, right? So you could do that and then bring it here, and that could be a different mounting location with a little more slant to it. Same deal in the back. You have this screw here that holds this tray in back here, so your shock could mount through that, and then down here where the link goes if you wanted to. So one thing that I'm noticing is that I'm going to have to limit the rear travel just a hair, because this dog bone here on the rear drive shaft for the D90 is just about to pop out at full reach there. So I'm going to have to take those shocks apart and kind of come up with a little bit of a limiting plan. So here's the shock right here. We're going to go ahead and just take it apart. So off comes the shock bottom spring. We're going to take the top of the shock off as well. I'm just going to get the oil wherever because I'm changing it anyway. We're going to try 40 weight back here. So let's just get it out onto there. So with the shaft out, Injora gives us a bunch of these little O-rings with these shocks. They're used for the brass little ends where you mount the shocks, but they give you extra. So we're just going to stack a little on here, and having those two there is effectively going to limit our travel by 2 O-rings worth, which I think will be enough. So we'll see how that goes. I think we have a pretty good bench tune done now on the suspension here. So as you can see, we have a little bit of extra ride height. It used to ride like right about down there. The extra ride height is going to be nice for absorbing some of those bumps. It used to sit like this, and as you can see, when we're like that, there's not a whole lot of room to absorb any like shock. And that was a big problem before. You would hit something and it would just launch the truck. So how it is now, I think we have a little bit better shock absorption, which is going to help hopefully with the stability overall on the trail. I don't know if we got more flex or if it's just smoother, but we've got like a little over 2 tires worth of flex here now, and it's very smooth. And as you can see, like the chassis completely recovers from things like that, so it's not getting stuck any kind of way, which will be perfect for trail use. Yeah, we get like 2 1/4 tires worth of flex there. I did have to limit the travel on the rear shocks in order to keep this dog bone in place. I put 2 of the included mounting O-rings in each shock, right under sort of the shock piston there, and that keeps them from coming out all the way, which will keep my dog bone from coming out, period. So that's going to be good. And yeah, overall, I think it feels good so far. I've got the heaviest springs in the back, and I have the medium springs in the front. We could go for like soft in the front and medium in the back if we wanted to lower the ride height a little bit, but I think that what we've got going on here is going to be good, fully loaded with the battery and everything. All right, we were at 340 grams stock, and now we are at 467. Let's make sure it's centered. Yeah, 467. So we picked up 127 grams, and that's basically all on the wheels. There is a little bit of extra weight probably on those shocks, but yeah, it's all down low, so that'll be really helpful. One quick last change. I took the spare tire off, and I put this spare tire cover on it from a TRX4M Defender. The stock wheel that was back there didn't match the new wheels, and I didn't like the way that looked. And also, this is just a little bit lighter. This weighs 6 grams versus the 11 grams of the stock wheel and tire. So I felt like that might be a good look. Oh yeah, I also locked down the servo saver. So yeah, you can't really see it on my camera that well, but I went ahead and tightened that down as much as I could get it, just to increase the steering capabilities as much as I could. Welcome to the voiceover. So here is the first little spot where we had trouble. There we go, right up that. Coming around through here, this was not one of the areas where I wanted to compare, but I just figured it would be fun to add because it was tricky. Here's the second spot. We have a little bit of trouble there. No roll there though. It would have for sure before. Right up and over. This spot here, we don't get. we try. I normally don't show this kind of stuff, but I felt like it would be good. This part I just thought looked cool, so I included it for fun. Alright, here we go. Rock crawling. So this part here, it was a little bit slippery. We had some rain the previous couple of days. The rock's not necessarily wet, but it is a little bit on the slick side. I think some better tires probably would have pulled through for me on this a little bit easier, but we get up. Steering there letting me down though, not nearly enough turn. I had to reverse so many times. But the fact that it got up there in the first place was good. Alright, and here are just some like bonus lines, some cool things that it was able to do that I imagined it probably wouldn't have been able to do before. Like that's a good little climb. And then look, really good side hilling right here. This is a lot steeper than it looks in the video. I never thought it was going to be able to pull this off. Like this is hard for like the Red Cat Ascent 18 when it was stock had trouble here. TRX4M had trouble here. Much bigger rigs. No problem. Okay, so we definitely saw some huge improvement, mostly from the wheels and tires. I do wish that I went for a little bit better of a tire. Those Falcons are really nice and scale looking, but they're just not the stickiest or the grippiest tire in the world. So wish I would have done a little better on the tire, but I had those laying around. You know, I could always upgrade or buy a different tire if I wanted to. Just make sure to keep them small because the D90 is small, and actually all of the series is pretty small. So you'll want to go with like a 57, 58 size versus like the big 64s like we put on the TRX4M and stuff. High speed trail handling was really good. It was actually doable. I didn't have very many little surprise rollovers at all. Rock crawling was greatly improved. It was able to climb things that it couldn't before. We did have a little bit of a hard time on some of the harder lines, but like you can't really, you know, just a couple upgrades aren't going to completely change the physics of the model. The shocks I was pretty happy with as well. They did a great job of giving me some actual suspension movement. So I was really happy with that, and I'm happy that they are tunable and adjustable, so I can really dig in there and try to dial it in more. Probably will be doing that over the next few weeks, just making sure that it's running as good as possible. And yeah, honestly, the only things that I still wish for and that might be worthy of upgrading in the future would be to figure out how to get a little bit more steering out of it. The servo's fast enough, but there's just not enough steering throw. Like for a little tiny wheelbase like the D90 has, I should be able to turn around just about anywhere. And honestly, it doesn't have that. So some steering improvements would be really nice, and maybe just a little bit more power. Now granted, you can drop it into the low gear to get like the climbing power you need, but I found that I had to shift down a lot, like sometimes where I wouldn't normally shift down, so a little bit more power would somehow be cool. I don't know if there are many 050 motor options out there for the FCX24M, but I'll probably look around. I don't want it to be a speed demon, but I would like just a little bit more torque in high gear so I don't have to shift as much. Overall though, really happy with it. The truck is super tough, super fun. But overall, I would say that the wheel and wheel weight combo made the biggest difference on the FCX24M. So if you're interested in any of that, I'll link everything in the description. And yeah, if you like this video, give me a like. And if you like this type of content, you should subscribe. I make videos like this every week, and it's always a good time around here. Anyway, guys, I think that's a video. We'll catch you next time.